Our next comments from Monsieur Villemure from the Bloc. You have 6 minutes, please. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll come at you from a different angle. You've been very optimistic, like Mr. Trudeau, and that's very different from Ms. Fournier, who was the opposite. The opposite of optimistic. She was very pessimistic. How do you explain the difference between the two perceptions? I cannot explain it. I cannot speak for her. I know what's happening in the Foundation right now, and I am optimistic. Last week, Alexandre Trudeau, or what I remember from what he said, is that it was Ms. Fournier's fault and the fault of the other 8 people who stepped down, and not his fault. What is your perspective on that? That's not what I stated. In my opening remarks, I said that I had a good and fruitful relationship with Ms. Fournier. I liked the program that she organized with the Foundation. She said up until the end, it was a great relationship with everyone. But what changed? There was obviously a conflict in the Globe and Mail. After the article, concerns were raised. And what happened then for the relationship to go from something that was so great to her resignation? I cannot explain her resignation, but I can say that there was pressure on the organization, on her team, and on the board. Following the article posted in the Globe and Mail, and it got national attention. And it focused on us and the allegation. And that created significant pressure on the entirety of our team. And so it was a very difficult time. What about the conflict? There's no specific conflict that I can pinpoint. But it was just the pressure that created a difficult atmosphere. When she asked to have an investigation and had asked 6 questions of a lawyer, and that's what we heard you propose, having a special committee, 3 members of the board, and then people from the outside, which is good governance. Yes, I believe that that's governance 101. And when she stated that she wanted those 3 members to recuse themselves, she insisted on that. The 3 members that were supposed to be on that auditing committee, if we can call it that. I'm not sure I understand. I'll ask you in another way. She wanted it to be completely independent and not with 3 board members, correct? She agreed with me in the beginning. We talked about it in the middle of March. I always asked for a committee with 3 independent members, and that had nothing to do with the Foundation during the time being examined, and she wasn't against that. What changed? I'm not sure what changed. We wanted outside counsel that had nothing to do with the foundation. And we wanted to work with an accounting firm under counsel. And the oversight was going to be carried out by a committee of 3 people, and I don't remember her being against that. You had a common solution, but having 3 board members is what caused an issue for her, if I understood correctly. But that's not what I heard. Perhaps I misunderstood her. But to my knowledge, there was no disagreement on that. Mr. Trudeau said to us that the donation from China was the first and only foreign donation. Is that true, to your knowledge? I'm not talking about $100. There are 2 or 3 others. One was over $1 million from John McBain, from the McCall-McBain Foundation, and it was classified as foreign because his foundation is a Swiss foundation. But he's Canadian, and he was president at that time. He gave $1 million, but it was classified as a foreign donation. Another administrator, a Canadian, who was working in California at the time, and he also made a significant donation, a couple hundred of thousands of dollars, and that was considered foreign. Thank you, Mr. Villemure. I gave a bit more time.
Let's go ahead, sir. On va commencer. 5 minutes.
We'll start 5 minutes. Mr. Villemure, please. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Johnson, I just want to put things back in the proper order. There are 8 board members that resigned at around the same time. Microphone. 13 or 14, and 8 stepped down? No, 12 or 13 that resigned on the same day. At the same time as Ms. Fournier. Within a few hours. They can't all be wrong. One moment, I can't hear you. They can't all be wrong. They probably had reasonable reasons to resign. I would imagine so. But nobody shared those reasons with you? I cannot respond on the reasons for everyone. I spoke to some people, but not to all of them. Mr. Johnson, you mentioned that Mr. Rosenberg said this, I read this in the Globe and Mail, but I would like to know what you think, because I understand that it's not a conversation that you were able to have with everyone, but you are the president of the board, and you had an important position in the past, so you must have an opinion on the matter. An opinion on all of the issues that I've raised. What do you believe, instead of what did Mr. Rosenberg say, or what did somebody else say? So, with that mass resignation, that's unusual. There's pressure. What do you think of that? Yes, it is unusual. And it was caused by the national attention that the foundation received that put a lot of pressure on the board. And it was unfortunate that those resignations happened because I believe that we would have been in an external review, it would have been started, we would have been right in the middle of it by now. And the board could have answered all of the other important questions that the board was facing. Earlier, my colleague across the way asked about recruiting people according to their political backgrounds. I won't repeat everything, but I understand that it's not a criteria for recruiting members or fellows, but in a non-partisan organization, there are a lot of people that are around the liberal sphere, even though it's not an admission criteria. So it would be a bit of a network around the foundation. Is that the case? There are different networks, academics, and for myself, for example, that they come from all walks of life. You talked about the $1 million donation to the university and the 200 or 180,000. The university, they came to you with such a request. Is that something that's common? In my view, no, it is not. But I'm not aware of all of the conversations that could have occurred with universities. But I agree with you that it was a unique circumstance. But all I know comes from the other witnesses that you've invited before you. But your role, what you know in your sphere of knowledge, what is your sphere of knowledge? As president of the board? Yes. It's good management and good governance of the organization and good governance of the board. But there seem to be shortcomings for the board. For donations policies, for example, you were responsible for that.
Je m'excuse, juste pour m'articuler.
Just so that I can say it clearly.
I want to make sure that we have various things in place, but I require the cooperation of the full board in making those things happen, and management as well in supporting them and ensuring we're doing
Mr.
the
Johnson,
right things.
Mr. Villemure.
Thank you,
Mr. Villemure, 2 minutes et demi, s'il vous plaît.
2.5 minutes, please. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Johnson, 2.5 minutes is very short. I examined your CV, your experience, and today you focused on what other people said, and I find that unfortunate. Please give us your opinion on the truth. Why would we believe you versus Mrs. Fournier? I'll give you my 2.5 minutes to tell me why I should believe you.
I'm here to answer, and I must say, by the way, that I came here, I was invited to come here. I was not insisting on coming or asking to come here. Mais j'ai fait mon meilleur pour répondre.
I did my best to answer honestly and fully to all the questions asked, and to the best of my knowledge. I can't tell you things that I don't know. Inaudible. I'm just surprised, knowing your background, which is quite impressive, to see that there are so many things that you missed or that you weren't a part of. This has made national news, and we're hearing a bit of different opinions, and I find it surprising that you're not aware of everything. I can't change your minds if you decide not to believe me. I'm asking you why we would believe you. I have told you the truth but I cannot speak beyond the things that I'm aware of. But you can understand how it would be difficult for us to only hear you talk about what Mr. Rosenberg and Mr. Trudeau said. I'm curious, because we're not accusing you of anything. But I don't want to know what Edward Johnson thinks. Or I want to know what Edward Johnson thinks, rather, on all of the questions that were asked today.
And I welcome the questions. I've done my best to answer them to
Merci, Mr.
the
Johnson.
best of my ability.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.